You're listening to Parts and Charts. I'm Chelsea Owens, a therapist certified in internal family systems, and my co-host, KP Kajabowski, is an astrologer. We're testing the theory that IFS and astrology are mapping the same inner territory. Every episode, we put that to the test. Glad you're here.
Hi, everyone. We are back on the podcast this week with just each other. We've had a string of guest episodes that have been lovely, really fun, and we have a string after this as well. But today, I want to talk to Chelsea about parts activation, a concept I told her I have assumptions about, but I've never actually had someone like instruct me on like, what does it mean? What does it look like? That kind of stuff. So I want to hear about parts activation. And we think that astrological transits, like personal transits, relate to this concept. We'll see what happens where we can make connections.
Cool.
So Chelsea,
Hi.
IFS therapist, marriage and family therapist. What do you like? How would you explain to me about parts activation?
Is it a term that you've like seen in places on the internet, or like do you feel like do people talk about that term? Like I'm just curious kind of how you heard this term parts activation. Or
I've heard it from you.
Oh, have I?
But yeah, in my world outside of IFS like reading, I don't think I've ever seen those two words together. But I have heard astrologers use the word like activating a house or activating a placement or that kind of stuff. So that's where I'm like, oh, this seems like it's probably related. And I'm assuming that like there are moments where a part becomes activated. So that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
And obviously I have no experience with that concept clinically, actually.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I guess I've talked about it, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I wasn't sure if this is like is this something people are talking about on the internet and like I haven't seen it, or are people like just saying these terms? And yeah, I mean, I'd also love to hear your assumptions too. It's probably exactly what you think it means. It's, parts are being activated or lit up, right? Or triggered. I say with a giggle because I also just feel like trigger can be so, I don't know, it's so overused at this point, right? It's like some people get triggered by the word trigger.
Yeah.
I certainly feel like I use it way too much. So maybe activated is the new term that I'm going to start using. I think maybe starting with like, uh, we can have like our kind of normal, every day. I want to maybe not normal, but like how we're moving throughout the day, when we're not feeling activated. You're just kind of grounded, restful self, going throughout your day. Maybe there aren't a lot of parts that are at play, or maybe there's parts at play that are maybe not dominating your experience of the day, right? So you're just it's kind of your maybe baseline or status quo, right? Where you're just kind of flowing, existing, nothing's really up. Maybe you're grounded, curious, present, whatever, all of those things. And then something can happen throughout your day that shifts the energy, right? So I don't know what, that could look like a lot of things for a lot of different people, depending on your parts and what they're carrying. So like a sudden shift, right? A sudden shift in mood. Maybe it's a reaction to something, right? Because a reaction can sometimes feel a little bit like more intense or bigger than like what the situation is, right? So that's a clue. Something's up. Something's being activated. Or a pattern, like maybe a familiar pattern comes up again or is triggered. Maybe you're familiar, maybe it's familiar, maybe you've worked with it before, maybe not. But if it's something that's consistent, that could be activated. Physical sensations can also be a clue because parts live in the body and they can get our attention that way. A stomach ache, or like, not just a stomach ache, but like something maybe a little bit more intense. Or like, and not just like, oh, I ate something bad and now I have to go to the bathroom, but like stomach ache that feels like, oh, it's not like something I ate. Like it's persistent, or it's this deep ache that is making me feel queasy, or it's triggering some anxiety or chest palpitations or tightness or heaviness, maybe even like, strong sensations in the head, throat tightening or clenching, or like you can't really get words out. What else? Like really strong urges, like if you're being called to like take action on something, but it feels really urgent. Like, oh, I have to do that. Like a kind of a fight or flight response, or flee, or controlling. Maybe a feeling of a part really like flooding you, like really taking over. So all of those things, like we in IFS, we would also say that could be blending. So when a part is really activated, and even kind of taking over the whole system at that moment, we'd say like you're really blended with that, or is that is that part really blended with you? So when a part's really blended, it's really, really close. Like you don't really have a lot of separation or perspective on what that part is, or who that part is, or maybe even the ability to see it being activated, because it's just so close, and it's really needing something. It's needing to express itself, or needing to get its needs met, needs you to pay attention to it, needs other people to pay attention to it. So there's nothing wrong with that. It just happens. And I think, again, it's hard to really say like what exactly is being activated because it's so different for all of us. But I could guess that a part of the activation and a part of why parts get so activated is that something maybe a little bit more hidden in the system is being activated as well, right? Like sometimes protector parts get really activated because they're so afraid of a younger, vulnerable, exiled part being activated, or feeling whatever they don't want that part to feel, right? So if it's like
Yeah.
shame, let's say, they're going to do everything so that that exiled part doesn't feel shame. And so whatever, some of those vulnerable parts are carrying, whatever burdens or wounds they're carrying that haven't been healed yet, that is maybe another source of the activation, but it kind of looks like the more surface level part is being activated.
Yeah.
Any
Okay.
questions? Questions?
Yes. Which one do I ask first? It's just making me think of like whether you're conscious of something, all parts of you are responding to your life. So then there's parts of you who are noticing other things happening in your life that they might become activated by. And then you're like, wait, why am I suddenly like anxious, or why am I suddenly all these things? Like it feels sudden because it is a part of us that we're not fully conscious of yet. And then the body makes it felt or conscious. That's kind of how I'm taking this.
Mm.
So the body is like a great helper for us to listen to our parts at
Yeah.
first. At first
Yeah,
I'm glad.
definitely. Yeah, definitely. And you know, yeah, I don't know about conscious or unconscious. Like that really depends on the person.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm somewhat conscious of like my activation, or what feels when I feel activated. The more you pay attention to this stuff, the more that you're just gonna like quickly be able to recognize that stuff that feels activating, or what activates you, and when you're
Yeah.
blended. So the more you do this work, like the more that you're really gonna know. It's gonna be conscious, I think,
Yeah.
when you're like, oh, part's speaking right now. Like, yeah, that part's saying this. And that's okay too. It's like neither is right or wrong or bad or good.
Yeah.
But I think it's cool to be aware of it, and be aware when like, oh, that definitely is a part speaking right now. And that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where we want to be because we don't want to identify with everything that occurs to us or happens. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like I think the identity, yeah, identifying with it, does identifying with something feel like it can't be changed? Is that what you mean?
I mean, like how when we've worked through the blending or unblending process, it's like you don't want the part to feel like it is you, like
Uh,
yourself, right? You
well,
want to be,
I think a lot of parts do feel that way. And if I'm noticing that I have any agenda about what I want parts to feel, I need to notice that, because that's probably coming from a part of me.
Yeah.
Yes, overall, like, I want parts to feel understood and heard and like they have a place, and yes, I want them to also understand that they're parts and they're not me, self, you know?
Yeah.
But I also understand that, like, so many of them do think that. So it's a process. It's a process of, like, helping them understand that I'm leading, but I'm also not gonna say to my parts, like, "You're not me," you know?
Yeah.
Like, "You're not my identity, because that's also so hurtful. Like, they really truly believe that. So I need to understand that that's what they believe, and that's a really hard thing for them to stop believing. You know what I mean?
So well, I don't know what you mean yet, but I think we're close. So when you're speaking with the part or getting to know the part, they think they are you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Not like a part of you or like their own entity?
Yeah, I mean, I think parts could definitely know their parts. Like, when you ask them, like, "Are you a part?" They're like, "Yeah." But most parts, yeah, they so truly believe, like, they are self. Not all the time, but, like, there's definitely lots of parts, especially parts that are a little bit more self-like. They really truly believe, like, "Oh, no, I am you. I am Chelsea." So
Interesting.
it takes a little bit of time for them to understand that, like, they're a part, that, like, Chelsea's the leader, we're all parts in this whole system. But yeah, there's definitely parts that really believe, like, no, this is me. And also parts that definitely believe, like, their job or their burden is me, like, is what they're carrying and what they do for me is so tied to identity and so tied
Yeah.
to, like, this is me, this is always me. But they're really just so afraid of what happens when they give that up. What happens when we don't believe this anymore? Like, what does that mean for Chelsea's identity? What does that mean for my identity?
Yeah.
Because it's really hard to let that go and, like, imagine it being any other way or imagine doing something else. So, spending a lot of time with that and understanding that and validating that, like, yeah, that I really understand that you believe, like, this is truly our identity, and this is because 'cause we've had it for so long. So, it's not something that you can, like, give up overnight, you know? It's something that you
Yeah.
have to spend a lot of time with those parts. And really understanding it and validating it.
Are there any parts that feel like they are their own person, but they just exist in your system
Maybe.
and they have like a position or a job in your system?
Yeah, well, yeah, most parts do believe they have a position or a job, unless they're
But they
exiled parts. Yeah.
but they also believe they are you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just curious if there are parts that know they are not you from the get, and they also know that they're useful to you.
Well, I don't know, it gets kinda murky because we could be also going into, like, legacy and cultural burdens that parts have picked up from other people or from culture.
Yeah.
So those parts could say, like, "Yeah, I'm not totally you." But yeah, that's kinda like 201 here.
Oh, okay.
I don't wanna get too off course. I mean, that's like its own
Yeah.
episode.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, they definitely could say, like, "Yeah, I'm not you." But I've never really heard parts say, like, "No, I'm not you." And that also could get into some, like, this is also, like, maybe this is 301, but unattached burdens, which is kind of another, like, maybe new-ish kind of tangent, topic in the IFS world about, yeah, I don't wanna get into it too much because it's, like, it's its own thing, but they're, like, not really parts. They're kind of like entities that can come in and, yeah, it's a whole thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know, it's a whole episode.
All right, some teasing for a year or 2 from now. Okay. So then my next question is about like timing or duration. Like how long can a parts activation be or how short can it what's the gamut?
I mean, that so depends on your parts. Yeah, yeah, so I don't can't really say, but, like, just paying attention to, like, some of the things that I named about activation, reflecting on, okay, when I have a stomach ache or when, if that feels like an activation, how long does that last? Like, you can probably do some reflection about moments when you have felt maybe a reaction or a strong emotion, right?
Yeah.
And you can think about, okay, what was that? And how long did that last? I think my medicine woman last week said, like, every emotion lasts 90 seconds. I don't really know if that's true, but maybe. Every like strong emotion lasts about 90 seconds and then it's over. So let's go with that.
Interesting. But
Yeah.
the parts activations are not necessarily emotions.
Yeah, it could be.
Can you explain that to me? Like, could a
I mean,
part
I
be
think
the
like
source?
I think all parts like are feeling emotions, right?
Yeah.
It's usually like of an intense thought or feeling or, past trauma. That's parts are either carrying or doing. So yeah.
Yeah. So in moments of like conflict, we've recently talked about this, like you can be feeling angry and sad and hurt, like all these
Mhm.
different emotions at the same time in a soup.
Yeah.
Would you assume or would you think that that is like a bunch of parts feeling their own singular emotion together?
Yeah. Could be. Yeah.
Yeah. Like they're making a song together in different instruments?
I mean, it's just like the movie Inside Out,
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Long time ago.
Yeah. It's like that.
Okay.
One person's like hitting the anger button. The other person is like sad. The other person's like trying to, I don't know, control, but it's anxious. The other person's like trying to find joy, all at once. They're all in the control room and they're all like, let me press the button. Let me press the button. Not all the time, but like, I'm sure you can think of sometimes when it felt that way. Right.
So like any given moment, a part is activated.
I mean, maybe. I don't know about any moment, but it really depends on your parts and what's going on. I mean, if you haven't done a whole lot of work with your system, you might be kind of tossed around, a bunch. Like, might be hijacked by a lot of parts every moment. Sure.
Hmm.
Like, what do you think if you're just reflecting on your own activation? Like, what do you feel like your baseline is and what you feel during the day usually?
Can I ask a question first?
Yeah.
So every emotion that we feel would be a parts activation?
I mean, maybe it really depends on your parts, but I think that there's parts that could be activated that aren't, there's parts that are like working that may just be parts that are doing their jobs, but they don't have like an extreme job that they're doing, right?
Okay.
So, like, we all have parts that are always working because we're not just like always in self all the time. That would be kind of
Yeah.
impossible, right? Like, a part is speaking for me right now, but it's not
Yeah.
there, my parts that are here at this very moment probably aren't carrying a huge burden that's causing them to completely throw me into a spiral right now, right?
Okay.
But maybe there's still emotions that I feel, but it's not causing distress or it's not activating like some wound right now. So there's always parts doing something,
So
but
then
they can sometimes be doing something that's, I don't want to say helpful or unhelpful because they think they're always helpful, but something that's just, I don't know, doing their thing, getting me through the day. But I think what we're kind of talking about here is the parts that are getting activated who are still carrying something that's a little bit more extreme.
okay.
That's a burden or a wound or a trauma or feeling that's like really activating something in the system that is informing like behavior that's maybe getting in the way of my daily functioning or disrupting something or yeah, it looks a little bit different from the baseline.
Okay. That makes it make more sense because I was like, if I'm looking at a picture of a chimpanzee petting a kitten and
Okay.
I get a little teary-eyed, am I in a parts activation or am I just like feeling like compassion and like awe or whatever?
Yeah. Well, there's also like I just want to say there's nothing wrong with parts being activated too or
Okay.
being in a parts activation moment. There's nothing wrong with that, you know?
But what you're describing is that a parts activation is it's like there's more attention being made, or like there must be more attention to it because it is asking for attention. Where like some emotions just occur and don't
Yeah.
necessarily. So there is like there's a difference between parts doing their work and like
Yeah.
responding. and then there's activation.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and I just wanna say sadness and grief are, like I think those are special because a lot of parts can feel that, and
Yeah.
it doesn't mean anything's wrong, and it doesn't mean it's something we're trying to make go away too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This is making more sense to me.
Okay,
But
good.
but back to the question I think you're asking about, like, my baseline.
Yeah.
I think because my imagination is always on,
Yeah.
like, I can place myself into people's situations often, so especially when I'm watching TV, I do feel like a
Oh,
lot of things are happening inside of my system.
yeah.
Sometimes I would be very clear, like, "Yeah, this feels like an activation," but then there are some TV shows I'm watching or whatever, reading, um, that I can tell it's not activation, I'm just, like, feeling what's happening.
Yeah.
In my
Yeah.
regular life, like, absolutely know when I'm activated because all my attention's to that, and then I have to be like, "Why am I feeling this way? What's happening? Why am I reacting this?" Or, like, that kind of thing, so
Yeah.
that's very clear to me, but then there are some moments
Yes.
where I'm like, "Cool." I'm like, maybe it's the seas I'm experiencing, like, I'm witnessing someone say something to me that would have been activating 10 years ago, but isn't now because I can see more clearly
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
happening. So
So
that
true.
makes sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, when you're experiencing a lot of those C qualities and that, like, really strong self energy, like, you know that feeling, you know that essence, and when you're not feeling that, like, yeah, I'd hope that you'd have some awareness of, like of what that feels like too, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
It's just the awareness of, like, like, when you're in a group of people or, like, when you're, talking with your colleagues or your coworkers and you say something, like, maybe a little inflammatory, and maybe it's really just and it's, like, correct, but, like, there's an energy to it. It's like,
Yeah.
that's coming from a part, you know? I think just, like, having more awareness, you don't even have to say that out loud. Sometimes I'll just notice when I'm sitting with people and something kind of, I don't know, extreme comes out of my mouth or like something a little bit, and I know it's like I know I'm doing that.
Yeah.
I can hear myself doing it. I can hear the parts there. And I get my tells inside my body and I'm like, okay, that part just said that. And it's not something that like I need to necessarily stop, or maybe there's a moment when I do, or I need to like rein it in a little bit. Like, okay, some parts are like kind of taking over right now. Like I need to like take a breath and like reflect for a second, like what's going on for me. So just having that internal awareness when you're with people, I think is really cool. Yeah.
This is making me think of, like, I think when there's a prolonged conflict or prolonged issue in my life, it's not that I have a part that's activated for 10 days straight, but that
Yeah.
part is in the forefront, and then whenever I'm thinking about that conflict or that issue, the part is, like, ready to, like, be activated again, like, for a few minutes at a time.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
that I'm really curious about duration because I'm an astrologer.
Yeah, you are.
And also, like, as close friends, I think we both witness each other's self energy and parts energy when we're talking about, like, seasons of issues that, like, I'll make it about myself, like, there's been, like, a 9-month long issue in my life that you've been present for, and I think, like, it's
Were you pregnant? I'm just kidding. Are you having a baby and I didn't know it? Just kidding.
have no one can see below my chest. No. Yeah, so that's really interesting to me because I don't wanna bring it to astrology yet, but because it's my frame, it's interesting to
Mhm.
me because some transits last for years, maybe months, maybe weeks, maybe days, maybe minutes,
Yeah.
and I can see how, like, if a part is activated, it may just be, like, a 1-minute activation, and then maybe a month later, that part is activated again, but for a different reason or a different
Mm.
situation, so that's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking about right now. And I can tell that there have been moments in my life where that, like, very defensive, protective part about, like, my self-worth or whatever is a pretty consistent activated part for a
Right.
month, because I'm in a situation that calls for that. So, Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm going to right now in my head.
So true. Yeah.
Or, like,
Mhm.
maybe 6 months prior, it wasn't even on my mind or in my body that that was a concern of mine.
Yeah. I really appreciate your, um, data-driven brain and parts. Your and I I would love to have more data about, like I wish we could track, like, transits. I need a visual,
Yeah.
and then, like, what parts are activated within. I wish we had, like, so much data about this. Maybe we can work on that.
Yeah, and also,
Maybe
like,
we had an app that would be super helpful.
I feel like the human mind has to evolve into the 5D in order to do that because, like, okay, so you have your parts and maybe you're not aware of them yet, and then you start working with your parts and you become more aware and there's more spaciousness. And then you need to record what's happening against the astrology. It's just like it's
I
so many
know.
layers of data
We
that
need
I
I
think
know. We need a
I would
good
say.
tracking system. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just yeah,
Yeah.
let's I so maybe we should go into transits or, like yeah, what transits are. Because 'cause I'm thinking of parts and even, like, clusters of parts visually, like, in our house in each house, like, on our chart, in each house or houses, and either they're moving around to different houses at different times or different places on the chart, or they're staying in one place. But planets are like visitors, arriving at the door of each house, being like, "Hey, knock, 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 I'm here."
Yeah.
And sometimes they're welcome, and sometimes parts are triggered by those visitors.
We need more TP this month that Mars is here or something like that. Yeah. Or like, make sure
Right?
you shut the water off.
Right?
Yeah.
So, you know, eh, I'd also love to talk about the transits that are, maybe a little bit more like the inner planets, like Venus, Mars, Mercury. I don't know. Maybe we'll throw
Yeah.
the moon in there. Um, and how those closer ones can affect us and our parts. And maybe, well, I'm wondering, here's my theory, if those cause more like daily life interruptions or like small t traumas, like this email this person sent me really set me off for like 5 minutes and then I'm over it.
Yeah.
But then do the outer planets like Uranus and Neptune, like Pluto, like whoever else, I don't know where Jupiter sits. We'll figure that out. But do those like maybe longer transits have more like deep activation? Like maybe you're spending a whole year like working on this exile that's feeling so much shame, or you know what I mean, like, so
Yeah.
those maybe have a different yeah, maybe frequency or depth to them in terms of what's being activated. Those are my theories, not even theories, those are my hypotheses and questions.
Okay. Love it. Let's start with the foundational knowledge.
Oh, I forgot Saturn. Oh my god, I'm sorry, Saturn.
My babe. Um,
I don't know where
okay,
he falls
so
into this. Sorry to interrupt.
he's yeah, I think Jupiter and Saturn are outer planets, but
Yeah.
technically outer planets. I don't know if this is technical, but outer planets are the ones that we cannot see with the naked eye, and it's Jupiter and Saturn that are like at the edge. Saturn's at the actual edge. Like if Saturn were just a little bit further away, we couldn't see Saturn.
Edge Lord.
Edge, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
The moment you're born, the, the planets don't stop moving. They are always moving and they're always predictable. We can tell where a planet's going to be at any given moment in the past and the future, because we know their pace and all that stuff. It's pretty incredible to me conceptually to like be able to say 83,000 years from now, I know where Venus is going to be because of the math. Yeah, it's very cool. So that's important to say. Nothing is static, nothing is just still, right? But the
Yeah.
moment you're born, we have a birth chart. That's like we take a picture of the sky the exact moment you take your first breath, and that is like your energetic signature where the planets are placed and how they're interacting with each other. That gives you so much information on like your homeostasis, basically, or the blueprint of your life is how some people say it. So that's where we start. That's the birth chart. It's still. But a transiting chart is overlaid over your birth chart and the planets are moving around, and we can see if a planet is exactly on top of another one of your snapshot planets, or maybe there's a geometric relationship being made briefly for a minute or a day or a year or something like that. I actually don't think there's any planet that would be making a year-long activation. An exact, because we this is a 360-degree diagram, basically.
Yeah.
So if we have our sun at 0 degrees on that diagram, and then there's a planet transiting at 0 degrees at that same exact point, that's what I would call an exact transit or an activation.
Okay.
There are some discussions about like 3 degrees before, 3 degrees after, or whatever number of degrees before and after is when a transit actually begins. You
Oh.
start feeling it, like there's the applying transit, which means that it's getting closer and closer and closer, and then the peak moment would be that exact degree.
Mm.
Um, and then 3 or whatever degrees after is when it starts to, release, basically.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's the foundational knowledge. At any given moment, it's very rare not to have a planet in interaction, a moving planet, a transiting planet in interaction with a planet in your snapshot birth chart.
Wait, can you say that
So
again? I wanna
yeah,
make
okay.
sure I get that.
So every single moment of your life, basically, there might be some moments where this is not true, but it's so rare that a planet would not be activating a planet in your birth chart in some way.
Wow. Okay.
So I'm gonna a little bit of an aside just to illustrate that is that like when recently there were so many planets in Aries,
Yeah.
that might be a moment where some people weren't having any activations because there's
Mhm.
so much concentration in one part of the chart where
True.
the rest of it was a little bit open.
True.
And if your birth chart in some way was configured to not have any interaction with Aries
Yeah.
energy, then you might have a very quiet few days or a very quiet week.
Mm. Yeah.
So that I think that's another reason why when there is like a pileup of energy of planets in one sign, we
Yeah.
talk about it because it's so significant in that it may feel like complete silence to you or it's going to feel very loud to you
Yeah.
because
Right.
of your personal placements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
From there, let's talk about the inner planets, the faster moving planets.
Yeah.
The moon is the fastest moving.
Moon? Wow.
The
Love
moon,
her.
yeah. So the moon is a really great one to start with if you're practicing how to track a transit because it's pretty great because like every day or two, it will be making a conversation or an activation with one of your personal planets, no matter what.
Oh.
Um,
Today it's in Taurus. Aries.
I think
Aries.
it's in Aries today. We're releasing this when it's in Taurus. So
Yeah.
yeah, so because it's so fast moving, you can feel how it feels on a like neighborly level or a bodily level of how like certain placements in your birth chart might be activated by the moon. And the moon, I would say it feels like attention. So like when the moon's going over like your natal Mars, it's bringing attention to that Martian energy inside of you. It may not activate in the traditional sense when we're talking about it in like we like become anxious or something like that, but it helps us feel or bring attention to that part. On the flip side, Saturn takes 2.5 years to go through the whole
Wow.
to go through one sign. So it's harder in some way to feel a Saturn transit because it's so slow. But my personal story I wanted to share briefly is that I think I shared this on the podcast earlier is that Saturn has been opposite my sun, moon, and Mercury because in my birth chart, sun, moon, and Mercury are like the same degree, 1 degree apart
Oh, yeah.
for 9 months, I believe, maybe 10 months. So for 10 months, Saturn has been applying a really difficult opposition is
Oh, right.
activation.
Yeah.
And what it's looked like to me is like chronic fatigue, inability to like just push through anything. Like I've been so slowed down and I
Mm.
knew that was going to happen. The way that it has showed up in my life was not predictable,
Mm.
but I think the way that it might be parts activation is that it is bringing up, like, every once in a while, I'm just getting these activations, like, I feel so tired, like, why can't I it's so there's a lot of, like, yeah, my parts are speaking really loud about vitality and living
Yeah.
long, living well, and all these things.
Yeah.
So for 9 to 10 months, I've had this really long transit that has brought up parts of me that, before that I probably haven't talked to very much.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what I'm thinking, like how we can connect parts activation, IFS, and astrology. So yeah, the moon is, it's like daily life kind of energy. Like it may not be really intense, or it could
Yeah.
be. And then if we're thinking about the super outer planets, the
Wait,
planets
can I
that
just
move,
pause for a second?
yeah.
So I
Mhm.
wanted to go back to Saturn really quick, um, to understand this because I think even though you're kind of putting Saturn in a category that's it could be both, right? It could be outer, inner, whatever. But no matter what, even if it's kind of far away from us, it feels like it's really strong, right?
Yeah.
It feels really potent for our charts and for transits, right? Because it has the energy of like you said, slowing things down and making you kind of take a deeper look at something. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm trying to love Saturn, I'll tell you what, but it's kinda hard for me because it slows me down. So, I wonder if Saturn particularly activates, like, your manager parts. Like, does it you think it's probably it's activating, like, like, control parts or critic parts or achievers or, like, perfectionists, maybe? Parts who try to get it right or, like, want you to I don't know, like, or is it activating parts that, like, want to work really hard, but can overdo it? Or yeah, or being hard on yourself or not being hard enough on yourself. Like, all of those kinds of protectors or managers.
Similar to how you're like, well, that's not quite parts activation. Like, I think that's the beginning. Like, that's the trailhead questions, right? Like, but then you get to know the personal details of like, oh, actually, your Venus is involved and she's very particular about how she wants to show up in the world and make money or something like that. I think that's where you begin asking questions. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
like, do you feel like you're not managing things in the way that you used to or you want to or these like I think yeah. But I don't think we can assume that is the experience of a long hard Saturn transit because a long hard Saturn transit like can be completely different for some people. Like it can feel
Because of where
really
it's at in
extreme.
your chart and who else
And
is
also
there.
who you are. Like
Yeah.
if if someone had my exact same birth chart, exact same rising sign, and so everything's the same, but they have a completely different life or completely different set of goals.
Mm.
This may not have looked like a loss of vitality for them. It may have
Oh,
looked like it could look like something really great for them, like giving them the access to this resolve that they needed to get something into the world or something like that.
yeah.
But because of who I am and how I grew up, and I think this is where IFS is really cool to work
Yeah.
with alongside of astrology, is
Yeah.
like, I don't think I have issues with shipping things, publishing things.
You're a shipping magnet.
I meant that as like a videographer, but so I think the way that it showed up in my life was so related to my body's experience, my
Oh,
health.
okay. Because first house?
Yeah, that's another thing is that Saturn in my snapshot birth chart is in my first house of my life's experience, my body, how I
Yeah.
react to things. So that's another element is that Saturn is approaching a square from my birth Saturn. So there's this like a lot of pressure building up where yeah, it's just there's so much reliant on other information.
Totally. I know, and that's why I love that you're saying, like, they're trailheads to ask about. Like, that
Yeah.
could be true, but it's a starting off point that could give us more information. Yeah.
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 Yeah. But what you're doing is like you're taking these concepts that are Saturnian and applying them to
Mhm.
a person's life experience.
Mhm.
And that's the best thing to do.
Mhm.
If you don't know the person you're talking to yet, that's the best place to start, is the
Yeah.
Saturnical. And, like, there's other things about Saturn too that, like, I think apply more to my experience, which is, like, contemplation
Mm.
and maybe thinking before you decide something, instead of just
Mm.
doing something, like, maybe take a beat before
Yeah.
you do something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, Saturn's a whole like, a whole universe, and then
Person,
you
yeah.
just go through the concepts related to Saturn and see which one is resonating. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But bottom line, Saturn isn't punishing us.
Did you say is or
Period.
isn't?
Is it?
That is that's a worldwide debate.
Well, you heard it here first on the pod. We're reclaiming it.
Yeah,
Saturn's not punishing us.
not punishing us. Yeah, I talk a lot about I try to treat the planets, as neutrally as I can, but
Yeah.
at a point, you just have to say that Saturn is hard. Saturn brings Saturn brings the business.
Yeah. Saturn brings the
Mars is
business.
hard. Mars is hard. You can't get around it. Mars inflames things. Mars brings the fire.
I'm kind of like more cool with that probably because I like fire, but than
Yeah.
Saturn.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess my recent experience has been Saturn and Mars opposing each other, and that's another reason why, like, I've been just so exhausted.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, yeah, we can talk about the planets neutrally, we can be cool with them and compassionate. We should.
We
And
should.
also acknowledge that you don't go to Mars to look for information about ease or
Mm.
joy. Maybe
Yeah.
pleasure, but not ease. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, did I
I think you wanted
cover
to get to the outer planets a little bit because we were just,
Yeah,
yeah, we kind of got sidetracked with Saturn, but this is so fun.
okay. So the outer planets move very slow. So Saturn is slow. It takes 28 years, 28 and some change years to go around the whole zodiac. That's
Yeah.
slow. But
Yeah.
it's fast enough for us in our human lifetimes to take notes of what
Yeah.
happened last time Saturn was in this position. I mean,
What we call
after
the
age
Saturn
30.
return, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but then, like,
Hmm.
so at age 31, Saturn is a little bit past where your birth Saturn was. So, like, you can
Yeah.
see a cycle.
Yeah.
At least 90-year-olds can see a cycle if they're taking notes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, none of us have a life as long as Neptune or Pluto yet. I think Neptune's way over 100 years old, the cycle. And then
Oh, wow.
Uranus, very few people get to after a Uranus cycle that's around 86 years.
Uh,
So those transits, yes, to your question earlier, is like you really feel them because they're so long. So like Uranus can take months,
yeah.
many months over 1 degree
Yeah.
of the whole 360 degrees. So, like, imagine the moving Uranus is right over your moon for
Hmm.
months. And what Uranus does is disrupts. It brings things to the surface. It's the genius planet, so it makes us do things in a different way, try like
Uh,
experiment. What if that planet, what if Uranus is over your moon? So, hello people who have 0 degrees, Gemini moon, talking to you right now.
oh.
What does that feel like for your the moon is we talked about this in a couple episodes ago, like the body's experience, homeostasis, memory, emotions.
Hmm.
What would that look like? That's such a significant transit that you would only have once in your life.
Hmm.
So that's another reason why I'm like, okay, what does parts activation look like if you only have this experience once in your life?
Yeah.
But it's like a long duration, so that part might be speaking a lot in
Yeah.
that few month duration.
I mean, if there's nothing like to be activated though, that may
Right.
look like business as usual, right? I mean, if there isn't something, some core wound or like thing there, yeah, it may not look like anything, right? I mean,
Yeah.
or I guess like I feel that sometimes like when there's some transits happening and I'm like, I didn't feel anything.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
even on a maybe on a collective level more so than like my personal life or my personal chart. But it's like, that was fine because there
Right.
wasn't anything getting dug up and like, yeah, tossed
Yeah.
around for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe that energy is always expressed, and it has to find a way to be expressed, but, like, it's impossible for us to be aware of all energy at all times,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah.
So there might be something that does express itself externally, internally,
Sure.
but you're not aware of it because it wasn't
Yeah.
activating.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. And I think a good example is like when there's a full moon or an eclipse on the exact same degree of one of your placements,
Yeah.
you're more likely, I should say, to feel activated than someone else who doesn't have a placement at that same degree.
Oh, yeah.
It's gonna feel like we call it like, this is very personal to you," is the phrase, like, "Oh, this one's gonna be personal to you." And maybe it's not. Maybe it
Mhm.
doesn't. Because maybe you've already worked through that kind of activating pattern and
Right.
you know that it goes into your painting. You know that it goes into your swimming or whatever.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what feels tricky for me sometimes when I'm especially paying attention to, like, what the internet astrologers are saying about something big that's moving and happening, and it's like, "This is in your, 2nd house. There could be some things coming up around resources and money and blah, blah, blah," and I'm like, "Don't nothing's happening," and it almost makes me frustrated because I want something to happen or, like,
Yeah.
I'm waiting for something to happen or then I just start looking and I'm, like, looking for every single thing, like, "What is it? What is it? How am I gonna feel it?" And it's like, it passes by and I'm like, "I nothing happened." Like, I felt nothing. But
Yeah.
it's like, okay, maybe I worked through some of that stuff. Or if I hear some of the astrologers talking about, like, you could see this pattern coming up, like this pattern and that pattern and people in your life, and I'm like, "Nothing." But maybe
Yeah.
that's because I already worked through some of that stuff, and maybe that 10 years ago, that would have been a different story. But I also then like get frustrated with some of that like really general
Yeah.
stuff that people say about certain transits, or they try to make it seem like you should be noticing these things or like these
Yeah, what's
patterns,
wrong with
like there's
you?
got to be somebody in your life you got to get rid of. And it's like, what if there isn't? Like, what if like everything's fine and I'm actually like kind of healthy and happy right now? And I don't need to be like looking for all these flaws or things that are wrong because
Yeah.
like, nothing's really giving my attention, like, it's okay, like, I'm actually okay. So I guess I
No.
also can get into this, like, seeking and looking for something that's wrong or something that I need to fix or something that needs my attention, and it's like, maybe everything's chill.
Yeah, and also, like, writing or speaking a horoscope for a collective is
Yeah,
pretty dangerous work. It's so
like,
dangerous.
it's so hard, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, there are some people I think who do it really well because, they talk about the intensity in a more social way,
Mm,
and then
mhm,
they offer suggestions. Like, I appreciate astrologers who
mhm.
offer suggestions for, like, how to work with the energy instead of saying,
Yeah.
like, "Get ready for your breakup."
Yeah,
What?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I have parts that seek out, like, wanna hear that information, like, "Give me the horoscope," like, "Tell me what it means for Leo risings this month," and it's like, yeah, there's something in me that is just, like, so desperate to hear that information, and then, like, is disappointed when it doesn't apply to me.
Yeah. I would say
Yeah.
though, Leo risings and Cancer suns, the collective horoscopes would have more information that connects to
Really?
your chart,
Because
you
of
know.
sun and moon? Or
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that makes
That
sense.
like you said, the 301, IFS 301,
Yeah.
that's astrology 301.
Really?
Yeah, because, like, my chart ruler is so slow moving, like, there's no way you can know where
Totally.
Saturn is in my chart, and I know that he's the most important
Yeah.
to my life experience. So, like, why are you
Oh.
talking about that? Like, no.
Oh.
So when
Yeah.
Saturn's moving through my 7th house, like, get ready for your breakup for 2.5 years. Like, yeah, that
Yeah.
would make sense, but no one's gonna give a 2.5 year long horoscope to Capricorn risings, you know? Um,
Poor Cap
yeah,
risings. I
yeah,
know. Yeah. Okay, back to Uranus though. What else?
yeah. Okay, so we talked about what Uranus.
Especially because Uranus can feel like there's that like sudden feeling, right? Or
Mhm.
like it's changing something up really quickly, right?
Yeah, it's changing something up really quickly and suddenly and unexpectedly, and it's also one of the
Unexpected.
slowest moving planets.
So silly. Yeah.
It is silly. There's another element to the outer planets. I don't like to talk about them too much because we don't have as much data and observation about them because we
Yeah.
just found out about them. Like,
Mm.
I don't even know how long
Like
ago.
Pluto.
Yeah, we like in my dad's lifetime, I think we found out about
And your
Pluto.
dad.
Not in my lifetime, but so that's another thing is like we have some information. We can do an educated guessing, but we don't have nearly as much information about Venus and how she affects like how she works in transits, right? So that's another
Yeah,
reason why like working with inner planets is more interesting to me. Also
yeah.
as like an artist and a maker, like I like to work with the inner planets as like assuming that they're going to activate a part in me. Like when Venus is going over my birth chart Venus, I like to like focus on my creativity for that week, month, or however long I want to look at that transit. And the moon, like I know when the moon is inside of a house, I'm going to have to nap because I know that because I've tracked it, that part of my chart when the moon goes through it is activated and it becomes really overstimulated, so I need more rest. That kind of stuff, but that's an intimacy thing that I don't think we're talking about right now. And also it's making more interested in parts activation because when
Hmm.
a certain part is activated by a similar thing, it might be interesting to track that so that you can work more intimately with that part and be like, oh, I noticed last time a couple months ago, you also were talking about this. Is there something that you want to share that connects these two thoughts
Hmm.
or events or feelings?
Hmm.
Which is how I view like when the moon goes over my Mars or whatever. It's like, oh, last time it kind of looked like this. Do you think there's something related to that? Maybe, maybe,
Hmm.
maybe?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. It's all like so dependent on my moon cycle, like my menstrual cycle as well.
Yeah.
Sorry to bring that in, but like
Yeah. It's huge.
it's right, so much activation, so many parts involved, and I don't know how. Yeah, it's so I don't know if that also is something that you feel, but I don't know,
Yeah.
and I think that's like true for so many people, but I wonder if that also like has a lot to do with where your moon is, where your actual moon is too.
What recently I was contemplating kind of related that if you're planning something that is around or on the date of a Mars activation, like let's
Yeah.
say like Mars is activating your moon or something like that, and you know it's coming up and it also coincides with a really important date, like you're giving birth that day or something.
Yeah.
You can't avoid it, right?
Yeah.
So what my advice always is like make sure you breathe that morning, make sure you
Yeah.
meditate, make sure you get your carbs, your protein, your
Yeah.
fat. Like
Yeah.
treat it like you're about to run a marathon because
Yeah.
you know that there's something that's going to be activated. And it may be small, maybe large, but you can't predict the intensity. So what you can do is take care of yourself ahead of time.
Right. And that would be so helpful to be able to ask those parts what they're needing in
Yeah,
those moments.
yeah.
What do they need in order to feel you with them and feel, yeah, okay, and like they can relax a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, like, "I've got you. I'm showing up for you. What else would you
Mhm.
like me to do to help us prepare for this moment?" And, like, maybe you're
Mhm.
about to sing at a wedding or something, and, like, that of
Mhm.
course, like, performance stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's, like at least for me, like, my parts are like, "Okay, I know this is in 3 days, so I'm gonna need a lot more from you to help me,
Mhm.
yeah, feel prepared or not freak out, basically." Yeah.
Right.
I feel like I'm in, like, a Neptunian
I
trance
was
with you
just
right
I was
now.
just gonna bring up Neptune.
Baby!
Ugh.
I love Neptune.
Well, what do you wanna say about Neptune? Do you love? Yeah. It's
Neptune's in
beautiful,
reverse now.
isn't it like turquoise blue?
Yeah, it's
From
so
the photos that
beautiful.
we have of Neptune, it's like really
Yeah,
it doesn't even look real.
yeah, and that's such a Neptune thing. What is real?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Neptune transits are also very long, and all of these planets also go backwards, retrograde sometimes, and then they go forward again. So there might be a transit where, like, usually Uranus goes over 1 degree in a couple months. I actually don't know how long the regular speed is. But
Mm,
then what if Uranus decides to retrograde right over that degree again and then go over it again? So it's like many, many, many months of
mhm,
this Uranus energy, and you're just the lucky person to have your moon placed there the moment you were born. So you have like an extended experience with Uranus, which will absolutely
mm.
affect your life.
Yeah,
Neptune transits, I think that going through the planetary energy might be a completely different episode because that's a lot to cover, but
Mm,
they're long, and I
yeah.
also just experienced it. I actually don't know if I'm done
Really?
actually, because
Yeah?
Saturn and Neptune were at the same degree across from my 3 personal planets. So
Oh,
Neptune opposing that kind of energy is like, it's difficult to see things clearly, it's difficult to make sense of
really?
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, like loss of faith, maybe too much faith,
Oh,
easily
oh,
bamboozled by things, like that
oh,
that's what it could look like. So there's also this like,
interesting.
at least in my experience, it was like, well, how can I trust myself? In what ways do I like, does it show up for me to feel trust in my body that something
Mhm.
is true?
Oh, yeah.
And I think that has been the lesson for me is like, okay, well now this is a transit that I'll only have once in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Now I like in my gut, in my bones can tell when I can trust myself and in which ways,
Uh,
because
do you
Neptune
know
holds deceit.
deceit? Oof, wow. Do you know if I have any Neptune transits or have I had one?
Ooh.
I know. Put you on the spot.
I mean, you've definitely had transits, but what's the most significant one? Because your Neptune is in Capricorn, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so Neptune has
Okay.
gone over your Jupiter in
Oh,
Aquarius because Neptune's currently in Aries. So there was a moment where Neptune was over your Jupiter for a while.
ooh,
Um, I'd be cur I'd be curious to find those dates and see if something happened with, like,
yeah.
best friends or something like that, because it's your 7th
Oh,
house.
it's the seventh house. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk offline,
Ooh. Okay.
yeah, about that. But we'll find the dates because that's another thing is, like, when you can see the window range of a transit,
Yeah.
a short one or a long one, like, "Oh, actually, yeah." And you,
Do
like,
you feel like
contemplate.
Neptune would make you feel a little lost? Like you've lost yourself or you've lost something?
I think when there's an overdose of Neptune, yeah, it feels like, "What the hell is happening?" kind of energy.
Mm,
When there's a
yeah.
little bit of Neptune,
A
it's
little bit.
it's like, romantic and fantastic, like, it's all those
Really?
great things when there's just a little bit of influence, but when it's an overdose, like, yeah, you're like,
Interesting.
yeah.
So, like, microdosing Neptune would be like yeah, it'd be like a fun little romance, but then, like, an overdose would be, like, maybe a toxic romance where, like, you're being bamboozled, or it's like,
Possibly, yeah, and another thing about
"Damn."
this recent Saturn-Neptune conjunction is that, like, well, Saturn was actually helping Neptune stay grounded and, like, be in the real world. And then Neptune was kind of helping Saturn not take things so seriously and, like,
Mm,
enjoy enjoy the pleasures of life and, like, listen to music and stuff
mhm.
like that. So there was, like, a cool, supportive thing there. There's definitely not some supportive stuff if we're thinking about the world, but
Yeah,
it's
right.
so if there is a Neptune activation, it really is helpful to have another planet involved to help with the
Uh,
edges of that or,
like, balance it out. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's true for all the outer planets. Is like because they are so close, so immense, it's nice to have the closer to us planets, the more personal planets to help us interact with them.
Interesting.
But that's a whole other thing because like we're talking about single activations or transits, but yeah. Do you think we should leave it there? Because that's a lot.
Yeah. Anything else that you feel like you need to say? Does that
Yeah.
feel let's just check in
So
with our parts.
there's the like element of like, oh, this is going over my head. Yeah, this is like
Is it?
astrology. No, no, like I'm concerned that someone listening is like, this is like
Oh,
too much. If that's I this makes sense to me
we can
because
let them have their own feelings,
yes,
and we don't have to take care of it.
transits are like it's a whole task. It's a whole way of thinking. And if you want to start like practicing tracking transits and listening to them, I do encourage you to start with the moon or Jupiter.
Yeah.
Jupiter is a really great one because Jupiter does a whole year in one sign.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's kind of nice to be like, oh, Jupiter's can be good stuff, like expansion.
Yeah.
So I would choose those two planets to do first when you're tracking them.
I'd say, gosh, we should really do an episode about tracking the moon.
LOL. That's next week.
Wink. See us next week. You
Karma.
had a really nice Substack post yesterday
Oh, thank you.
about you're welcome. And you should all check it out because KP is a master at Notion documents. And if you don't know Notion, check out her doc and try to get into some Notion because it's such a good way of organizing information, and she has a really cool, like, way of thinking about time, and she lays out how to look at your chart and how to track some some of your planets and some transits, and it's just look at it. You'll get it when you see it.
And also, if you have any questions, just send us a message through Substack, and I'll send you resources or I can answer them. Just let us
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Maybe we activated some parts for this conversation, which is what we wanted to do. Just kidding. What parts are activated right now by this amazing conversation?
I want to, before we hop off, I want to thank you for being able to ask you, like, I'm like doing like a search and rescue mission when I'm talking to you
Ooh.
about IFS stuff. And it's so
Ooh.
nice to have your expertise to like ask questions around, I guess. So thank you so much for letting me do that. And I feel like I do
Good.
understand parts activation now.
Good. Okay. Yeah. No, I love it when you ask questions, and I love giving you information, and I love you sharing information about planets and transits. You're such a good teacher, and everyone who's not watching this, you should probably watch this because KP looks really cool today. She has like a cool like baseball shirt on and like a headscarf and lipstick. So
Oh,
she's got a cool vibe going on. I like it. I mean,
and
she
then
always do, but it's like a little bit different today.
yeah, you know, I'm experimenting with veiling, but let's not talk about that publicly. And you look like Capricorn rising with
I
your
know, I look like
collar.
you today. I have like
We
silver
switched.
earrings
I'm California today.
and my like button up striped shirt. Yeah.
Love it.
Love
Thank
it.
you everyone for listening. Come back for next week where we're talking with Carla Contreras about how to track the moon for business and like creativity and stuff like that. And it's a great episode.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Kisses.
Thank you for joining us for Parts and Charts, the IFS and Astrology podcast. If something sparked insight or resonated with you, we'd love to hear from you.
No, really, we're here to make friends. Reach out to us. Leave a comment, subscribe, and if you feel called, share this episode with someone you care about. Or, if you want to work with us one-on-one and go deeper with this work, check the link in the show notes for how to find us.
Until next time, may all of you feel a part of the family.